and get started. Today, we're going to be presenting Service and Projects Better Together, brought to you by BuildOps. This is going to focus on both sides of the commercial construction business. Your short service projects, your short service jobs and your longer duration projects. Who am I? My name's Justin Weatherby. I'm a sales engineer over here at BuildOps. My background is in construction. I've been a project manager and an estimator. If you want to go all the way back, I got my start as a laborer mixing stucco. Depending on what side part of the country you're in, you either see a lot of stucco or you don't see it. Anyone who's not familiar, it's a horrible job, but we all had to start somewhere. Now, even though my background is in construction, I've made that jump from construction to construction technology in about 2014. So coming up on 10 years, and spent most of that time on the implementation side of the house. For those of you just joining us, down at the bottom of your Zoom controls, there would be a Q&A section. And that's a great place to ask questions as we go through this. If any questions pop up, I want to try to get those answered for you. If for some reason I can't get to them, we'll follow up after the meeting to be sure you get those questions answered. Also, I'll be throwing up a number of polls throughout this presentation to keep you guys engaged, and I'm going to share those results of those polls with the entire group. So, get in there, vote early, and vote often on those polls. Who is BuildOps? Yeah, great question, right? Why are we here today? Well, BuildOps is like an all-in-one commercial service management and project management tool specifically for the trade contractors. We're going to cover scheduling and dispatching, quoting service agreements, invoicing, project management with RFIs and change orders and progress billing, and then your field office communication in there as well. We were founded in 2018. We are a privately held, veteran-owned company. The founder of BuildOps was an Army veteran, had a couple tours overseas, and then also was a commercial contractor. So this BuildOps was sort of born out of the needs of the commercial contractors. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why BuildOps. At the core, what we're trying to do is be more profitable with fewer overhead staff members, right? Too often, we've got multiple people in the chain, and all of that in the back office is essentially overhead. So we want to try to do more jobs with the staff that we have without having to just continually add overhead into our companies. Well, because I'm on the implementation side of the house, I really just like diving into the product and sort of understanding what it looks like. So let's go ahead and dive right into it today. Before we do, I want to throw my first poll question out there. I just want to know today, what's sort of the makeup of the group? Are you guys customers already, BuildOps customers? If so, I'll make sure I talk about some new recent feature releases. And then or are you just looking at BuildOps? So I threw that poll out there. The quicker we get the majority of folks answering it, the quicker I can end it and share it and then move on. Looks like we got about half the folks already. So if we get a couple more in there, oh, there we go. Cool, good deal. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up and share the results. Today, it looks like the majority of you are not current clients and maybe taking a look at BuildOps for the first time. So obviously, you're going to have a lot of questions coming up there. So, as we get into that, please use that Q&A feature. Also, I'm curious, what type of work do you do? Are you mostly commercial, residential? Are you that rare case where you're split, right down the middle with equal commercial and residential work? A couple more people, looks like we need to get to answer that, and then we go ahead and share that with the group. All right, good deal. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up and share the results. Looks like about 80% of you are commercial, and then about 20% are about 50-50 commercial and residential. Now, a lot of folks ask me, they go, Justin, I don't understand. What's the difference between a commercial workflow and a residential workflow? And we'll talk a little bit about that. I do certainly have a number of customers that do some residential work and use the system very well for that. but we are designed specifically for commercial contractors to make sure we can support those more like enterprise commercial type workflows. So we'll go ahead and get to that. Now, I mentioned before, we're going to be hitting on basically like you can think of it as types of work, or you can also think of it as like types of billing. We're going to be touching on T&M billing, billing for quoted work, like small quoted jobs, your reoccurring billing for service agreements, and then also like progress billing for your projects. Now, I say billing, but those are also your possibly your four major types of work. So another poll question out there to everybody, just curious, what's the breakout? How many are you guys 100% service or new construction, or I guess where's the majority of your work? And when I say the majority of your work, usually construction's a bigger dollar amount, but kind of think about it as number of crews. Do I got a lot of service crews or a lot of project crews? Should have gave you an option for some split in between instead of making you choose one or the other. Looks like just a couple more people need to get that one answered, and we'll go ahead and get that moved on. Perfect. Wow, that was like 100% of the people answered that one. New construction. The majority of your work is new construction. So you know what? With that said, we'll probably just start there, and then we'll circle back to the service side. So we mentioned before that we're handling both of those major types of work. And I'm going to go ahead and start here in project man. Well, let's just start here since I'm on as the dispatch board. We can schedule out both your service and project jobs down to the individual. We'll touch on this a little bit more when we circle back to the service side, but you can have different crews and sort and filter your crews so that you can get them dispatched to either the appropriate service visit or the appropriate project. Now, on the project management front itself, when I dive into project management, I'm going to see a list of all of the jobs that I'm assigned to. Now, you can leave this wide open, or you can keep this a little more siloed if you don't want different people to see all the different items in there. So today we're going to be working on this Jefferson High School project. And when I talk about a project management, essentially I kind of focus on three legs of the stool. You've got your document control, your billing, finance, that side of things, and then your field office communication. So we'll hit all three of those basically in that order, show you what the mobile app looks like. Starting on the project, on the document control side of the house, I like to start with RFIs, not because they're particularly exciting, but because these workflows are the same for all of my documents. Now, in the case of an RFI, I've got a few different statuses. I've got a draft, sent, responded, and then finally a closed status. Now, I'm going to be bubbling up throughout the system leading indicators for risk on the job. Project management at its core really should have a focus on risk mitigation. Too often, project managers have come up through the field, just like myself, and my primary focus was getting the work done, and was very effective at that. But there's another skill set that we need our project managers to have, which is risk mitigation through proper documentation. In the case of an RFI, I'm going to bubble up the average days overdue of these RFIs. And if you see that number trending upwards, that's a leading indicator that the GC is not communicating well with us on the job. And if they're not communicating well with us, they're probably not communicating well with the other trades out on the job either. So that's a good thing to keep an eye on. Anytime I'm creating a document in BuildOps, it's going to be producing a PDF, but it starts with essentially just coming in and filling in the blanks. So who's it going to, who's it coming from? In the case of an RFI, what's my subject? What information am I requesting? And a lot of the times we're asking this question, but we know what we want to hear, the answer that we want to hear back. So we've got a spot for a recommendation as well. And this is just where you can recommend to the GC, hey, here's our problem, and this is how we think you should solve it. Now, kind of important to that document control and risk mitigation, I need to put them on notice if there's going to be an impact to my timeline or an impact to my cost. So super important to get that information out to them. I could also reference a spec drawing or detailed number, and I can attach those to this as well. Obviously, when do I need this returned by to mitigate delays on this project? Now, once I get that filled out, it's going to drop in here as a draft. And I'm able to take these drafts, and then once they're ready to go, email them over to, let's say, the general contractor. Now, in BuildOps, we're going to track bi-directional emails, meaning we're going to track when you're sending it, and then also any replies going back and forth. Now, as a project manager, I'll tell you right now, the last thing that I want is another system to check my emails. I don't know about you guys, I already get too many emails as it is. So BuildOps is not going to be used for checking or replying to emails. It's going to store them so that if there's ever a question, in this case, about RFI number 2, I go to one centralized point. No matter which of my team members sent this out, who they replied back to, I have a centralized history of all that communication. Now, the way that works, I think it's easy just sort of to kind of illustrate that. So we'll say we've got BuildOps over here, and we've got a couple other bubbles down here below. This will be your BuildOps account. Let's say you're using Outlook. You could be using Gmail or anything like that. So we'll say this is your Outlook over here, and I'm going to be emailing this off to the general contractor. Now, I can send these documents to anybody, but we'll just say we're sending it to the GC. Now, what happens is when I come in here and click send email, a copy is going to go to my Outlook, a copy is going to go to the general contractor, and a copy is going to be stored here in BuildOps. So it's kind of hard to tell from my example because I'm emailing this back and forth to myself, but it was first sent on October 28th. I didn't get an answer. I sent it again on January 25th. Still didn't get an answer. Sent it on June 6th. Finally, on June 6th, I got my answer. And if we're looking at the end of the job and we're trying to figure out where these delays have come from, and the GC's barking up my tree, asking me about, why we were delayed. Hey, Mr. General Contractor, I had to email this to you 3 times. It took you 8 months to get back to me. Probably over exaggeration, I hope. But we've got our proof there that these delays weren't on our side, they were on your side. We let you know we need an answer on how to proceed. Now, when the GC gets this email, he's going to reply directly back to you. It's going to go to your Outlook and Gmail inbox. And now when you reply back, again, you're going to do that like any other email would today. And all that back and forth happens just like all of our other emails. But every time there's a transmission, there's a binding code built into that email that also brings it back into BuildOps. So BuildOps is used for storing emails, and it'll do that automatically. But you'll still live in Outlook or Gmail to see the emails come back and reply to them. There's no extra work on your guys' side. Now, again, down at the bottom, we've got that Q&A section. So jump into there and let me know what questions you guys have on this email workflow, because we're going to see this throughout project management. So I want to make sure if there's any questions on the emailing, we get those answered. So besides RFIs, we're doing the same sort of thing on change orders, right? I've got revenue. I'm going to be bubbling up revenue, cost, profit, margin on my change orders, and also bringing in attention to any outstanding change order dollars. Same workflow: draft, sent, responded, and approved. Once these have been approved, I can have them added back to my schedule of values. And if you guys are doing progress billing, AIA billing, well, here's a good question. In the chat, throw down if you guys are doing progress or AIA type of billing on these longer duration jobs. I'd love to know. So with that said, being able to add these approved change orders to my schedule of values, I'm going to jump into the finance tab and pop around a little bit. And under pay applications, every billing cycle, usually once a month, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to update the work completed this period. I've got my original schedule of value line items plus any of my approved change orders. I can come in here and put in my work completed this period is either a percentage or as a dollar. So up to you which way you guys want to go about that. And once I save that up, it'll produce that AIA G702, G703 type of document that might be required by your contractors. Oh, I got a question here. If the AIA isn't required. Can I also send a regular invoice? Yes, absolutely. We populate a pay application with that application on the front and then the continuation sheet behind it. But if you just want like a standard invoice, it produces one of those as well. And you can pick which one we're going to send off to the customer. You can still do your progress billing, but if they just want a regular invoice, we can do that for you as well. Now, on the submittal side of the house, most of the folks I talk to kind of fall into one of two buckets. Either they don't do submittals at all, or they do a ton of them and it's a total nightmare for them. Well, what we're doing here is kind of solving for both like the high volume case, but then also the case where you're not doing multiple items. So what we're looking at is this is our submittal item registry. And for each of the line items on here, I've got a description, type, when do I need to submit this by? And I'm able to add attachments to each of these line items. And it's up to you at what level of detail you break that out. I have some folks break it out entirely. I have other folks who will just have one line item and call it mechanical submittals, something like that. Now, with that said, once I have the list of items that I want to submit on, I can go ahead and package those together in any way that I see fit. I'm going to grab some subset of those items and add them into a package. So in this case, I'm only submitting out of that whole list in this particular package on the RTUs and the hangers. And what BuildOps does is it takes all of those items and their attachments and staples them together. It'll give you like a transmittal cover sheet that'll call out, hey, these are the RTUs and these are the hangers, or at least the items that you're submitting. And then before each set of attachments, you have this information page that will let you know that there's this is product data for the RTUs, and then those attachments behind it. And then also the next set of attachments, hey, this is product data for the hangers, and staple that all together. Let me know if you guys got any questions on the submittal side of this. We can also handle purchase orders as well. We're able to cut POs and receive against them. You have different line items on your PO. I can then come in and generate a receipt. I can do this from the office or from the field, take a picture of the packing slip, and then like update my quantity received, right? So in this case, this one's fully fulfilled. I still have 3 outstanding on this line item, so I can update it here. So we're doing a 3-way match. So we're able to integrate this with our accounting package. And this kind of ties into a question somebody just asked about, what accounting packages do you guys integrate with? Off the top of my head, I'm sure there's a couple more, but like the big ones that I see are going to be like your QuickBooks Online, your QuickBooks Desktop, your like Sage Intacct products, also your Viewpoint products like Vista, Vista Viewpoint, and then Spectrum Viewpoint. Those are the big ones off the top of my head. There's other ones that we integrate with. Those are probably the ones I see the majority of. And in each of those situations, specifically on the POs, we're doing a 3-way match. I'm going to send that PO down. I'm going to send the receipt down. Your accounts payable clerk will get a vendor invoice, check it against the receipt, make sure that they're not charging me for 100, but have only delivered 50 of them. If all that matches up, or if you need to make some changes because you missed freight, we're actually going to bring that actual cost back into the system. And that kind of ties in to the next section I want to talk about, which is the finance part of this, the job costing. Really, we're talking job costing here. Now, I have a very detailed work breakdown structure. Now, by no means do you have to use this sort of Cadillac of work breakdown. But what I've got here is different phases. So I've got floor 1, floor 2, floor 3. These are phases of my job, and these are customizable from job to job. This is just an example. With floor 1, we'll be covering rough-in, ductwork, and install. These are cost codes. So I've got phase codes, and below that, I've got cost codes. Now, rough-in is made up of what we would call cost types. So phase, cost code, cost type. And what's an example of a cost type would be labor, equipment, material, subcontractor, overhead, other, Now, Rough-in has a equipment, material, and labor component that rolls up into Rough-in, and then installed ductwork in Rough-in rolls up into floor one. So we're able to handle very detailed work breakdown structures. But if you only want to use like one level of this, you can. If you just care about labor and material and equipment, then you can use this report by cost type. If maybe you go one step further, but not all the way to phases, and you use cost codes, you can also group this just by cost code as well. And when I'm cutting POs, when I'm entering time, when I'm producing a change order, I'm tying my line items back to these this work breakdown structure so that I can understand what's my starting budget. What approved change orders do I have? Obviously, now what's my updated budget? My committed costs. So as soon as I cut that PO, it's committed. It's coming out of my budget. But then I'm also reading back from your accounting software to get your actuals as well. So we've got committeds and actuals, and then understanding what percentage of our budget have I used. Also, because we're doing the costing and the invoicing, I can understand whether I'm overbilled or underbilled on this project. And there's a whole strategy with overbilled and underbilled, and honestly, it's above my pay grade. But in general, we don't want to be financing these jobs. So, in this case, I would want to be as close to zero or in the positive as I could. Now, before we jump into the mobile app, I wanted to talk about files. So, we track RFIs and change orders and submittals, but those are not all of the documents that that we use or that can be stored with this. So we have different file folders, and these file folders you can set permissions to. So like your guys out in the field, they shouldn't have access to the signed contracts, but your folks in the office should. With that said, I also have, these are project specific folders, but I also have like a global folder where I could store like submittal templates. So if I'm always using the same chillers or the same hangers, when I'm creating my submittal packages, I can pull from this global files as well. If there's any sort of documents that you need to provide to the team members, you can drop it in that global search as well. Now, before I jump into mobile, I'm sort of curious, what are you guys using today for software, if anything? I threw a poll out there. Let me know what you guys are using. And as you're getting that poll question answered up on the screen right now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the mobile app. Let me know. Are you guys using Procore, Service Titan? If you said other, throw that in the chat. I'm curious what other might be, just so I can maybe make these poll questions a little more relevant in upcoming webinars. So let me know what you guys are using today. All right, it looks like just about everybody's answered. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll and share the results. Okay, perfect. So it looks like the majority of folks answered sort of in that other category. It looks like some of those other ones that are coming in might be CMIC, computer ease. Jeremiah asked about integration with APIs. Jeremiah, that's something we would talk about here, like on a one-on-one basis. We do have APIs. We don't just open it up to everybody for everything. But if there was something you were trying to do there, Jeremiah, let's chat about that after. And then, Jeremiah, maybe you were asking about like Workday or CMIC. Yeah, so something like that would be a custom integration. We'd utilize those open APIs, and we might even have a partner that we want to hook you up with to help you with that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And Corey, give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my mobile app on the screen. So with that, I want to start talking about the mobile app on the project management side. when I log into the mobile app, this would be like a foreman or like a lead who's going to be performing this work or these next couple steps. And basically what I want them to do, the number one thing I want them to do is fill out their daily report. So I'm going to say I'm working on the Jefferson High School project. I can also, review POs and receive against POs or add additional POs. I can also look at those files and pull any of those up that I need to, but the thing I wanted to talk about today is going to be daily reports. So my daily reports, I got 6 sections. I got notes, forms, crew time, equipment, materials, and subcontractors. I can also capture signatures on this as well. So if I want my customer to sign off on this, like I've got the GC superintendent and I want to get his signature, like, hey, like, look, like we got a problem, I'm documenting it, sign off on this, I'll send you a copy later. We've got the first thing I want to hit on was notes, and I've got a few different buckets for notes. I've got work completed, delays and issues, out of scope work, safety concerns. All of these sections work the same way. Basically, I can come in and use the talk to type feature to fill this out. This will allow you to get a lot of information into the system quickly. Also, the old saying's that picture's worth 1,000 words, but in construction, a picture could be worth $1,000. So they could add photos either from their gallery, or you can go in and snap pictures on the fly if you wanted to add to this daily report. Besides the note sections of the daily report, we also have this concept of forms, right? And we have basically custom forms that we can set up for the guys to fill out in the field. So I've got some examples. Maybe it's a work authorization ticket, or an internal RFI, or maybe it's a safety checklist, anything like that. So I could go ahead and pop that open and make my selections here. In this case, I'm using like a safety form. You could make certain fields required. You could have drop downs. You can have date fields, number fields, text boxes. You can add pictures on here, things like that. And you can also capture signatures, which is a big one. So forms as part of the daily report for any different number of different items that you might want filled out on a daily basis or weekly basis. The other big one that I'm going to touch on is crew time. We got 1 of 2 ways we can enter time. We can either have an individual enter his own time, or we can have a foreman enter time for his crew. And basically, in this example, I'm going to do a foreman entering time for his crew. It basically looks the same thing for an individual, except obviously they're not going to be selecting who they're working with. The time card will just be for them. What time did we start? Let's say we started at 7 a.m. today. What time did we wrap up? We wrapped up at 3:30 p.m. And then depending on your locality, you might also want to throw lunch in there as well, because that might be a reporting requirement. So 12 to 12:30 for lunch. Up here at the top, it keeps me honest so that I know, hey, I've got 8 hours here. Then I'm going to pick what cost code that we're working on. Again, that goes to this work breakdown structure. Floor 1, what were we doing? We were doing rough-in. Floor 2, we were doing install. Now, now that I've got those cost codes in there, I've got these 8 hours that I need to distribute. So I could say we got 6 hours here. Now I've got 2 hours left to distribute. The other 2 hours went here, down below. And that's where the other time went. Now, when I go ahead and save this, I can edit the individual time entries before I'm done with this time card. So I can come in here and edit Alan's time or anything like that. And then also on the home page, it's just going to show me a total. So I've got a quick glance and understand, hey, how many hours did we have? Now, back in the office, my folks out in the field are filling out this simple form, but back in the office, I'm going to see a nice daily report with weather information and things like that on there. Let's just show an example here. I've got the weather information from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every 3 hours. Depending on what type of work you're doing, temperature and humidity might come into play. If you're doing any sort of coatings, things like that. If you're flying a crane or, doing any work on a ladder, obviously wind is going to come into play as well. And then any of those note sections I filled out, workers, and then, the customer signature down there below. Now, I'm curious, like we're all in the busy season right now, so I'll throw another poll out there. What's some of your biggest challenges sort of during this busy season? It seems like, once the snow is melted and things start getting hot, most of our contractors, their work goes up maybe by 100%. Their crews have to almost double to keep up with the work. So just sort of curious on, where the deficiencies on your guys' side as well. Oh, Shane's got a good question here. I'll go ahead and wrap up this poll. Looks like just about everybody answered, and I'll share the results there. Billing and invoicing, we talked a little bit about that. We'll talk about it again, sort of on this quicker sort of work that we're doing on the service side, but we talked about the billing on the progress billing, document control, touched on that, and then that field office communication is always big, especially once the guys start getting busy out there. Shane asks, is there a way to track units? So I'm wrapping that up, Shane. Let me show you kind of I got half of it done. So on my project setup, when I'm coming in here to build out my budget, for each of my line items on my budget, I've got installed units, or units to install. In this case, kind of looks funky because they're all 100, but basically I've got 100 units to install and 100 hours to install those units. I have an estimated unit production rate of 1 unit per hour, right? Now, what we're wrapping up is on the mobile side, and not only adding the hours, but adding the units. It's something we can do from the web on the daily report from the web. I can go in there and add my unit production. They're wrapping that up on the mobile device here shortly. I think that's, Shane, maybe what you're asking for there. So we hit project management pretty good. We moved really quick. So if you guys got any questions, drop those in. I'll be happy to answer them. Let's talk about another type of work, right, which would be more of our service work. You get a phone call, hey, we need you to come out here. The AC is not working, something like that. So I get a call. I'll type in the customer name up here in the search bar. So it's Scripps Medical Group, and then for Scripps Medical Group, this is kind of one of the differences between commercial and residential. Scripps is this one billing entity, but below that, I have these different sites that I'm servicing. So I service their surgery center, their emergency care facility, and the outpatient center. So right from here, I could go ahead and spin up a job. I did it pretty quick, just click create job. And so this would be like a T&M break fix type of work. What's the issue? We're just going to say there's no AC in the lobby. Now, there's a lot of fields on this page. I don't have to fill any of those out. I could have just clicked save job and dispatched it and got somebody out there. Issue description is an important one, right? Why are we going out there? Also, you can go ahead and call out who the property representative is, the person on site that we should talk to. And then also who authorized this visit, who called in and asked for the work. Sometimes it's the same guy who's on site, but sometimes it's not. I'm curious on how often that happens. So we're going to say Mary called in the visit, but John is the individual on site that we need to talk to. When we're talking to Mary, maybe she gave me a PO number or a work order number. If I wanted to, I could tie this job back to an existing service agreement to track the profitability of all the work, not just the service agreement itself where we're changing belts and filters, but all the work that came out of that service agreement. We call it pull-through work. Basically, how much money did we generate by being the go-to contractor on this site? NTE, not to exceed, can throw that in. Project manager, who's my project manager? We say it's Glenn. Department, we're going to say we're going to dispatch this out of service. Now, I could create and schedule a visit right from here, and go ahead and come in and pick what technician and day and time that I wanted them to go out there. But right now, I don't know who's available, so I'm just going to save this job. Now, we were talking about projects before. Now we're talking about, we call them jobs, but you might think of them as work orders, same sort of thing. And these are more high volume, right? The projects, I'm going to be there for months, if not years. Here, hopefully I'm in and out in a couple days, if not just a few hours. And so these are higher volume, quicker turnover, and they have a different need than a project does. One of those needs is sort of just tracking where we are, understanding which jobs are open, which jobs are waiting on purchase orders. Do we need to review anything, right? Have they filled out their ticket and I need to look over it? And then whether or not this is ready to be invoiced. In this example, it's a brand new job. I don't have any of that. So what I want to do is I've spun this job up. I want to go find out who's available for dispatch. So I'm going to go to my dispatch board. And we talked about this a little bit. I've got a day view. I've also got a week view. I could move this. I don't have a month view. People ask about that, but I mean, look at this on a week view. A month, I don't know. I couldn't figure out what would be going on. But that said, is I can roll this as far out into the future as I want. So I can schedule things 6 months from now if I wanted to. So, you know, day view, week view, map view, we can sort and filter by department, things like that. And then in this case, I'm going to pull up down here at the bottom my unassigned jobs, and I'm going to see who's available here. So, you know, I'm kind of looking through my list. All right, there's a job I want to schedule. Who's available? Justin's available. Right, so I can go ahead and drop that onto his calendar. Now, what's slick is this whole board is sort of drag and drop, where I can move these different items around to different people, you know, based on their availability, right? And then I can also like make the durations longer, sort of change the times, things like that of this board. Now, what happens, I've got my phone on silent, so you probably didn't hear it, but I got a notification on my phone that I've been scheduled for a job. Now, it only sends them that notification if I'm scheduling within a 24-hour period, right? So if I schedule something for today or for tomorrow, they're going to get a notification. If I schedule it 3 weeks from now, we're not blowing up their phone with all of these, you know, schedule changes that might be happening in the background. But I certainly see a list of those jobs on my phone. Let me go ahead and pull that up right now. All right, let's see. There it is. All right, good deal. I'm looking at a list of the visits that I've been scheduled for. Now, in this case, or by default, I'm going to see today's visits. I could also look at my past visits and any future visits that I'm assigned to. Now, if I pop into this visit, we'll see some icons up here at the top. These are our action icons. So if I hit travel, this will update the dispatch board and let them know that I'm en route. Also, this is going to grab a GPS stamp and a timestamp of where I was when I hit this button. Work, same thing. Timestamp, GPS stamp updates the dispatch board back in the office. For my folks out in the field, I'm going to see all the information that we entered before. I can view past jobs. So if we were out here, before, I can look up any past jobs and see all the technicians' notes, any of the details, right? Who authorized this visit. I can also see a complete service history of, we call them assets, but they're basically like equipment or systems that we have installed. So if I click into one of these assets, I can see the full service history on this asset, and then also any of the any documents that we've attached to it. So if there's a service manual or something like that, I can see those out in the field as well. Now, my report, what a lot of people like is this is all in one page, right? So it starts kind of with my action buttons, then I've got the information section. Now I'm into the report itself. If this were like a maintenance call, I would have a number of different tasks that I need to perform. And this would be like a checklist, you know, oh, yep, we cleaned the filters here, replace the belts here, etc. So we would see tasks there. Just like the project management side, I can have custom forms here for like startup, shutdown, testing, those type of forms. I could have those filled out. I can select what asset that I worked on. Besides just being able to select what asset that I worked on, in some cases, the asset that I worked on isn't in this list. So I can actually add an asset from out in the field. But being a carpenter by trade, I've pounded my thumbs flat over the years. And so for me to type in a serial number accurately, sorry, it's just not going to happen. So what we can do is we can actually scan the data plate and pull the text off of that data plate. Now, usually you'd be like taking a picture of this, but since I'm not sitting in front of any equipment, I'll just grab one out of my library. And we got a partnership with Google. So we send this up to Google. Google reads the file and then spits the text back out to me. So when it comes to like transitioning model numbers and serial numbers, it's that easy. And I'm going to get it right every time. So if there's any questions there, let me know. I'm moving quickly through this because there's a lot of ground to cover and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm going to hit on a couple other things. On this ticket, it's a T&M ticket. I might have pulled something off my truck to be installed for the customer. This is one of the number one things that slips through the cracks. So a lot of my folks will make this a required field that you as a technician have to touch this field. Whether you use something or not, you at least got to think about it, right? So I'm going to pop in here and I'm going to say we used a belt. How many of those did I use? I used 2 of them. Save that up. I can then add additional items as well. Because this is T&M work, it's going to slide over to my invoice. Also, if I'm making any purchases, I'm buying something over the counter, I can add those as a PO as well. So who's my vendor? It's gray bar. I can go ahead and by doing this, it's going to issue me a PO number. I select my vendor. It's going to issue me a PO number. This is the number that I give to the person across the counter. Too often, folks are just using a job number. If I'm just using a job number, how many purchases were made? I don't know, right? It's the same number. It could be 1, it could be 1,000. I have no idea. Am I waiting for a vendor invoice? I don't know. But by using unique purchase order numbers, again, it's already tied to this job, I know that they went, to the supply house 3 times, and I should be on the lookout for 3 vendor receipts coming back to me. What we'll do is we'll come in here and they can take a picture of the packing slip that they get. So that's tied in here as well. And if you wanted them to, they could list out the materials that they bought, or they can just use like miscellaneous material and, say my cost on this whole ticket was, $225.50. And that all gets tied into my billing as well. We'll take a look at that in a second. After photos, same thing as before photos. Take your photos, take your videos, add them in here. Customer signature, I can have a customer come in here and sign this as well. And I can send them a copy of this visit receipt. I'm going to go ahead and say my work was done, but it's letting me know that there's required information missing down here at the bottom. So again, you can force them to fill out certain fields. In this case, I missed the visit summary. So I need to come in here and tell them what I did. Again, I can use the talk to type feature. The controller was broken that controls the AC in the lobby. We replaced it and everything's working fine now. Go ahead and get that saved up. I'm going to come up here, click work done. It's going to ask me, have I filled out my timesheet? Well, no, you haven't seen me do it. I haven't done it yet. So it'll take me to the timesheet for that job. Say I worked 4 hours, submit. Now, if you think that somebody's not recording their time accurately, don't forget that every time they push like the travel, working, work done button, I'm capturing their GPS location and the time. Also, maybe it's not the technician that's the problem, it's the customer, right? The customer says, hey, you guys weren't there for 4 hours. Well, I could go ahead and pull up those GPS stamps and understand, yes, like they were, I have a GPS and timestamp. Of course, they were actually there for 4.5. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to hit you with a change order for that extra half hour. Have I submitted my timesheet? Yes, I have. I want to mark the visit as complete. Yes, I do. Now, in case they forget to mark something as complete or complete it too soon, we can control that back in the office, right? We can go in and update that job status. Now, we talked about like, hey, this is high volume work. Lots of different work orders coming through the play. So here on our jobs table, like all my other tables in build ops, I can rearrange the different columns, right? I can hide certain columns if I wanted to. And then, but the big one is my different statuses. So I can understand like, hey, this one needs review and it hasn't been invoiced yet. So again, this is that jobs page that we were on before. Completed, POs have been received, review is needed. We've not invoiced this yet. So if I pop open my job report, if I was out there multiple times, I would see multiple visits listed here, and all of those visits would total up here on the main page for me, all the different line items for those visits. I can come in here and make adjustments. So, hey, you know what? 5 hours. How much do I want to mark this up? I want to mark this up 100%. You could have a price book that does this automatically for you, or you can come in and manually override that if you wanted to. So I'm coming in here and adjusting the markup of these different items, making sure the hours are correct. Yep, everything looks good. It's been reviewed. Let's go ahead and I can either mark this ready to invoice or just go ahead and create an invoice. In this case, I want to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and just create this invoice. It's going to take all the information that was entered on that and then roll it over here for us. What's nice, again, is these invoices will sync down to your accounting package. You can still make edits, though. A lot of systems, once you make it to this step, you're locked down. You can't do anything about it. In this case, we can still go in and edit this. Shane's got a great question. Certainly the goal here today is to see if this is something that you're interested in. And if so, we'll schedule some time with you to go over one-on-one, dive in more detail, ask you questions, talk accounting integrations and what's possible there, Shane. So Shane, if you can hold on just a minute for me, I'll throw up our contact information as we're wrapping up. The last two things I want to hit on, I'm going to hit on these at too high of a level, probably. Three things. Quotes. We can track quotes, create, track, email, and understand where our quotes are in the process. So when I say like understand where they are, basically their status, right? I can see if this is a draft. I can see, has it been sent to the customer? Have I emailed it to the customer? Then when the customer clicks on the email of this quote, it'll say email read. So I know they clicked on it. Now what's the next step? Have they actually viewed and opened the attachment, which is, the PDF of the quote that I just sent them? That would be customer viewed. And you can have a report that shows you all of your invoices where the email has been sent, but they haven't looked at it yet. So you can call and follow up with them. Or you can have another report that shows you all of the quotes that have been viewed, but haven't been approved, because they're going to need a phone call too to get them over the line. Track them approved and job added. Again, we could dive into this in a ton of detail. We're keeping it real high level. We can also track your service agreements. So if you're doing any preventative maintenance work, we can take the schedule, right? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it biannually? Is it quarterly and biannually because you have a major and a minor service? Do you have a fall service and a winter service and a summer service and a spring service, right? We can basically, what we're doing is we're breaking down the cadence, how often you need to go out there, and then what are you supposed to do when you get there? And based on this cadence, we're going to automatically generate work orders that can either automatically be assigned, or you can come in and assign them to your different technicians. And you're going to have a maintenance dashboard that lets you know which ones have been completed, which ones are scheduled, are they overdue, right? They were supposed to be done last month and now they're overdue. We better get to these ones first, be able to track it that way as well. Last thing I'll hit on is reporting. Every piece of information in the system is reportable. I hate it too often. Usually my wife, she says, oh, literally this happened. I'm like, oh my God, that happened? She's like, well, no, I didn't mean it actually. No. When I say literally, I mean literally every piece of data that I put into this system is reportable. Now, not only can I pull that onto a spreadsheet or a table or something like that, I can also come in and visualize that data. So if anybody's familiar with like a Microsoft BI or a a Tableau, something like that, this like data analytics, data visualization, we have that built into the software. So if you want like a line chart based on the data, if maybe a bar chart's more appropriate, you can do that. You can also do like tiles, right? Like just what you see here, pie charts, things like that. You can have like progress meters. So if you want to do $100,000 worth of billing, where are you today? And how close, to pegging that needle are you? Super helpful there. And this is all 100% customizable. Obviously, I'm showing you sort of like a pre-made one, but you can customize this any way you would like. And then better than that is tell us what you want on the implementation side. Tell us what report you're looking for, and we'll go ahead and build that for you. So our onboard training and onboarding is really white glove. We do all the heavy lifting for you. Too often software companies, when you sign up, they give you a login and like a link to some training videos, and maybe they meet with you once a month to answer questions if you're lucky. We have a totally different approach to it. We're going to do all the setup and configuration. We're going to do all the data import. And we're going to then present to you a integrated, ready to go solution in a sandbox. And we're going to do what's called a conference room pilot. And we're going to run through your different processes end to end, documenting your specific SOP and who the players are and where they're going to be touching and how they're going to be utilizing the system. Then we train your team. Only after it's been configured, set up, validate, then we're going to train your team at the larger team, and then we'll go live. And for me, I think that's just the best way to go about it. So I really appreciate everybody's time. I got one more question here before we wrap, and then I'll put our contact information. I'm just curious, Shane, this is a good way. Answer yes to this one. So that way we got your information, we can reach out to you. Also, I'll throw our information up here, but just curious, who would like some more information about BuildOps, one-on-one demo, maybe just a quick Q&A, if there's anything that we had left open. For anybody who's not interested, if you want to throw something in the chat, just tell me, why you're not interested, if we were missing something, or, if we just are totally not, you were looking for, fleet tracking or something like that, let us know that too. So I got waiting on a couple more people to get this one answered. So I'm going to leave this up for just another second, and then I'll throw up our contact information here, and we'll wrap this thing up. All right, cool. We'll go ahead and end it off right there. Corey, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Are you guys able to see the contact info slide? Appreciate everybody's time today. Again, I'll stick around here for a little bit. If you got any questions, let me know. Drop that in the chat. Drop it in the Q&A section. I got both of those up here. Be happy to get any of that stuff answered for you.